So episode 2, we've done the downpipe now, or 90% done it. We didn't weld the section coming under the sump, just in case we had to adjust it. And we're going to need to play around with the end of the tube we put in under the sump anyway, because we're probably going to have to bring it away from the engine mount a little bit. So it's probably going to have to trim a bit of that off. We need to do some pies in here to swing it towards the the tunnel of the subframe now. Obviously we've got our pipe running through here, but the centre of the subframe is here. I can demonstrate that with a piece of tube. So yeah, you can see with the tube in the subframe cutout, we're way off the centre line of the downpipe. So we need to put some pies in here to swing that across towards, and we're also going to need to put a joint in around here somewhere, obviously so that it can get it on and off the car. So we've got some two kind of segments of 4 segments of pie cuts, so that gives us 30-degree bends, and what we're looking at is to try and we're going to have to shoot that way towards the subframe and then shoot back again. So these two kind of 30-degree bends together will pretty much put us bang where we want to be, apart from I want to do all this a bit further back because I want to leave room in here for a flexi. If we can get room in there for a flexi, which I think we can, I want to do all that further back. So what I'm going to do is, at this point, I'm going to remove the downpipe, make a cut about here somewhere, and then tack on those pies at about the right kind of angle, pretty much about a solid centre line, I think. I'm not going to twist them up or down, I'm just going to put them bang on where they are. And then that'll hopefully get us kicked over quick enough, early enough, that we've got enough room between the sump and the subframe to put a flexi joint in there. Right, so we've got that tacked on, and with the 2 pies on it to give me a 30-degree bend. So that's kind of curling around the sump nicely, away from this rear engine mount, which is what we want. We need enough room to get a flexi in here, really. I'd also like to kind of terminate with a V-band here. So by using a shorter flexi, it's going to allow me to do that. But we still need to get down a bit. Of course, I wanted to keep the downpipe as high as possible right at the front of the car, because that's, if anything's going to scrape, it's going to be right at the front of the car. Obviously, if there's, by the time you get to where the wheels are, well, the wheels, as the wheels go over a bump, if it's a speed bump, so does the car, because it goes up with the wheels. So if you can imagine I don't know if it's obvious or. But yeah, as you roll up to a speed bump, obviously, until the wheels hit it, the car doesn't go up in the air. So that's, up until about this point, that's where you need to worry about keeping it high. But if we keep the flexi bang in line with the wheels, that allows us to drop the flexi down a bit without having to worry about it dragging over a speed bump or a bump in the road or whatever. So yeah, we've kept the downpipe nice and high to this point, but now we can actually start to lower it down in order to get under the subframe, because the subframe is quite a lot lower than the cutout in the engine. So what we really need is to kind of set where we want the flexi to be, which is going to be somewhere around here, giving enough room for a V-band in behind. And then we need to make sure that we get in with 2 more or maybe 3 more or maybe even 4 more pie cuts to actually get the height right, get the angle right. So because obviously the tube slits inside the flexi, I think what I'm going to do at this point is cut a piece of tube which is just short enough to go inside the flexi and give us a little bit of straight. So I probably only want about 35-40 millimeters of straight to slip inside the flexi and then tack on the end of a pie, and then I can kind of hold that and get a better idea of what angle, and just trying to keep it all accurate really. Okay, so I've got these other two pieces of pie cut, and then the piece of tube that I've mentioned, cut, tacked together. So that's going to sit kind of like that. So that's going to swing us back in a straight line again to shoot over towards the cutout in the subframe. And then the flex will go on just behind it. Looks like it's going to work out about right. But at this point, again, like with further up the downpipe, I don't like to go too far along on pie cuts without welding them up, because you just end up with loads of tacks that can move, break, whatever. So yeah, I always like to kind of start welding some up. So we've gotten this far. I'll mark this at this location. We'll take it off, I'll tack that on, then we'll get it all purged out and weld it up. Right, we've got that welded up now, and I've also swaged out the end a little bit, which is just kind of expanded the end out a little bit to fit the flexi a little bit better. The 3.5 inch flexis that we buy in are kind of always a little bit oversized, really. But so it's not a problem, it just means we have to bring the tube out to the same size as the flexi so that we can, when we weld it, we can get a really nice weld without having to have any big gaps. As they say, 90% of welding is in the preparation. So it always pays to prep things and make sure you get good, nice, tight fits on things. So yeah, we can try this back on the car now, work out where the flexis go in, work out where the V-bands go in, and then we're pretty much done on the downpipe. Got a little piece of tube cut, put that inside the flexi. Obviously you can see it's a bit loose inside the flexi. So the flexis, they're slightly oversized to kind of 3.5 inch tube. So with another piece of tube, just an offcut on the back of this V-band, I can now see that with that in there, that's kind of in the direction I want to be going. So it's the right height. We're not going to have to make any other adjustments. So now what I'll do is I will weld this piece of tube to this V-band, then swage it out nicely so it fits in the flexi. Then we can get it positioned and weld the flexi. Then that's the downpipe done, basically. Right, so we've got the downpipe back on with the flexi on the end of it. Basically the right angle so that it sits nice and parallel to the sump. And what we've got to do now is just get room in here for this V-band joint. So we're going to have about 25mm of tube in the flexi and probably about 10mm hanging out. We've basically got the, we just want to get this V-band bang in between the flexi and where the subframe starts. So we just need a piece of tube to go in between there and there. I could weld the V-band bang on the end of the flexi, but because of how these flexis are crimped up, it's never really a good idea. You can do it if you need to, but I always prefer to try and get a piece of tube in there, weld the end of the flexi up properly, and then weld the V-band on the end of that. So yeah, we just need to get a piece of tube cut, and then we can join the two ends up of the downpipe in the midsection. Right, so we've got that V-band welded up and shoved in the end of the flexi, and now we've also got the all that kind of assembled in the right location. So with another offcut on the end of this other V-band, the kind of male side of the V-band, that is about bang on in the right position. So what I need to do now is whip the downpipe off the car, tack the flexi where it is, get that welded up. While it's off, it's probably going to be worth me throwing the O2 sensor boss in at the same time because we don't have that in yet. But yeah, that'll be the downpipe done. Right, so we've got the downpipe finished to just before the subframe, and what we've got on here is the centre section that we originally built for Justin's car, but didn't get around to finishing. So what we're going to do is use this centre section as a kind of guide to get us from here to here. So it's going to involve going up a bit. Obviously we wanted to keep the ground clearance in the centre of the car with this 5-inch body silencer. So we kept the silencer really high up. It's in a really good position, and it barely hangs below the car. So we are going to have to get the pipework up, so from kind of subframe height up to here. So it is going to be a case of just straight piece of tube from about here to here, probably, you know, one set of pie cuts down, so like a 15, then a 15, and then hopefully straight into there. So hopefully there's not that much work in this bit. Yeah, so time to cut some tube. Okay, so we've sorted this kind of secondary section out now. So we've gone from downpipe to the secondary section, which still needs to be welded, into this big centre silencer, which is basically as big as you can get in there without losing any ground clearance. So this is, you know, realistically what's going to be needed on a 3.5-inch system to actually keep it sounding reasonable. The thing is, the bigger the bore you go, it's like when you go from a 2.5-inch to a 3-inch system, they sound a lot louder, and that's not necessarily always just to do with the size of the silencers. It's literally just the bigger bore pipework, the more it'll drone and resonate, because the gas, unless that pipe is full and kind of under pressure, you then get that drone. So we've gone for this massive silencer in the middle. So coming on to this rear section now, because we've gone for a 5-inch body silencer and we've kept it as tight up as we can, we've got to get down to this level here under the fuel tank heat shield. So we are going to have to come down quite a bit. It's probably a bit hard to see on camera, but it probably wants to come down at least an inch really to get down from this height to the kind of centre height of the silencer. So again, we're going to use pie cuts just because that's what we're using on pretty much the whole system. So we're going to come down with like one pie to come out, and then like a shorter piece in the middle, maybe 2 inches long, something like that. So we're going to need a piece in the silencer, a piece to step down with, and then another piece before we start that bend round. Now this is built a fair few Astra exhausts in my time. This is within exactly a 22-degree bend here. So the easiest way of doing that with pie cuts is actually just going to be to cut 2 pieces of tube with, we can do it 2 ways. We can either do 2 pieces of tube with 11-degree angles on them, which gives us quite a harsh angle, or we can basically cut an 11-degree pie, a 22-degree pie essentially, or 2 pieces of 22-degree pie. And then once you start getting into those kind of divisions, it starts to get quite difficult to actually cut them mega accurately. So we'll probably go for doing it that way because it'll come out better, it'll look better. But yeah, first step is get a piece of tube in the silencer, get these first 2 pies on there so that we can step down to the height we need, and then we can look at doing that 22-degree bend round. Right, so I've got a taped up section here. So there's basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pies here, and this is where you can't really see so much when it's covered in tape. Once I've got this tacked up, you'll see. This is where pie cuts really start to come into their own, because even though they are cut at an angle, 7.5-degree angle in this case, you can actually get so little variation in kind of bend angle by twisting them back together. If you take these 2 pies and then say we line the seams up like I like to do, that gets us 7.5, 7.5, 7.5. That ends up with being 2 15-degree segments, 30-degree bend. But if we actually turn them 180 degrees from each other, we actually just get a straight piece of pipe. But then if we turn it like maybe quarter of a turn, we get barely any bend angle, but on a totally different plane to how you can create with mandrel bends. I was kind of talking about it on the downpipe as well, because that's where it's really crucial, you know, on those really tight sections. But this is where, once this is tacked up, you'll be able to see even better. But like on the inside of that, that is so straight and so free flowing, you just can't create those kinds of compound bends with mandrel bending. Mandrel bending's great for production work, but when you're talking about something custom, something where you are dealing with really tight tolerances, pie cuts are just, you know, the way to go. It's just that they're so time consuming to do. Again, this is where you can, you know, until it's tacked up, it's a little bit, you know, sketchy, not so accurate. So with this piece of tube on there, we rotate that round a little bit more. We've got bang on the right angle for shooting up over the rear axle or rear beam. So next thing to do now is actually to figure out where we're going to put a joint in here. So I don't think we're really going to get room for a V-band in there. It's going to be mighty tight if we do. And V-bands are great, but you don't need a fully V-banded system. It's no negative, you know, to have a slip joint. So I think that's what we're going to do in here. We're probably going to have a piece of pipe, maybe call it 2 inches long, which will fit in just before that heat shield, and then we'll have a slip joint in there and a clamp, because then there's enough room to have that there, and again it makes the sections not too long. So yeah, we'll cut another piece which we'll tack on the end of there, get all this section tacked up. At that point it's probably worth just whipping this silencer off, tacking the tube in. Well, now if it looks right, we'll tack this straight piece on the end, which is going to become our slip joint, weld it up, then we'll whip the silencer off and get it tacked in the right position. Right, so we've got this tacked up section in here now, and I've stuck on a piece of swage tube, which is going to be our slip joint, and got that pointed in roughly the right direction. So now it's just a case of making sure that this is bang on the correct orientation that we want. I think we're probably going to want it a little bit further round, something like that. So now I'll mark that, and we can take it off the car, tack it, and get it all welded up. And then it's a case of moving on down the back here. One of the comments I got on the first video was, you know, 3.5 inch tube over the rear beam, that's probably going to bang. And yeah, I think, you know, there's definitely less room than you'd like. It's not ideal, but it definitely can be done. If you can keep it super tight to the heat shield, that we know we can, because that's the beauty of making something bespoke, making something, you know, built to fit a specific car as a one-off. You know, we're not worried about we're not trying to mass produce this, and we've not got to worry about the inaccuracies of mass produced parts. This is going to be a one-off kind of fabricated on the car to suit the car with our turbo kit, so we know everything's going to fit right. So we can keep it super tight to this heat shield, and then as it comes over the beam, we can keep it super tight up to the body, and then shoot off over towards the silencer, and that gives us maximum beam clearance. And obviously the beam will go kind of, because it's on a bit of an arc, this beam will travel kind of back as it goes up. So, you know, we have got quite a lot of clearance there. It's definitely, it's probably no less than you'd get on any off-the-shelf 3-inch system. So, you know, if you've got a 3-inch system that maybe doesn't fit that well, and it bangs, it's definitely going to be this is definitely going to be no worse than that. Obviously, there are other things you could do. You could use like ovaled pipe, but then it starts to get quite expensive. The oval pipe is not cheap, and like I say, I think we can get it good enough just by doing it this way. So yeah, now it's a case of welding that section up, and then we can start lining up this this rear over axle section and get that all right. Right, so we've now got this this kind of drop down and bend tacked into the end of the silencer, and we've got our slip joint on the end here. Obviously just unprepped pipe at the minute because we're still messing around with lengths of things, and I've taped up 260-degree bends with a piece in the middle. This is just a piece that was in the top of the tray, so it's kind of like an offcut from earlier on, but it actually looks, when I put that on there, to be about bang on the right height. So I want to pretty much push this up until it touches that heat shield, knowing that with the weight of the extra pipe on it, it's going to drop down a little bit. I could clamp it up at this point, but I still want to leave it a bit loose, knowing that, again, I want to be able to push that up so that I can get the pipe right at the top, knowing that when it's got the extra weight of a bit more pipe work going up to the silencer, that weight isn't then going to pull down on the bushes anymore, lower the whole exhaust and get it close to the beam, because obviously we want to try and keep it as high as possible. So I think actually we've got the length of tube in here about spot on. So I'm going to have a rough guess at where I think the silencer is going to go off to. Realistically, we've got loads of room because the silencer is not going to start till about here, so we can kind of do what we want. We don't have to worry too much about making sure we've got the right angle on here, because we've got plenty of room to kind of change that angle. So I'm just going to go for kind of roughly shooting off in that direction. I'll just mark that. I'll have to transfer my mark to the inside, obviously, because I'm going to brush up that bit of pipe. So once I take it off, I'll draw a line on the inside when I can see. Yeah, then tack all them up, put it back on. Hopefully it still fits. Right, so we've got all these tacked up now. So they're kind of ready to weld. I've got it in really nice and tight to the body. Now, obviously, the weight of the silencer, although it'll be on hanger brackets itself at the back, there's going to be a bit of additional pipe work in between there and there, so the weight of that will pull it down a little bit, and we'll end up with a small amount of shrinkage on all of these weld joints as well. So that should leave us with just about the right amount of gap between that and the body, and absolutely tons of beam clearance. So before I weld these up, I can kind of get a little bit further. So we now need to get to the height of the silencer. So we actually need to come down a bit. We need to come down and then level back off again. So 4 more pies, so 2 30-degree bends, whichever way you want to look at it, together. So if we put those there, like that, that starts us to come down. Just get them in the right orientation. Yeah, so that's like on, starting to point down again. And then we need to point back up. So if I just grab these right, it'd be a bit easier if I taped them together. But so yeah, then we start to point back up. But we've gotten over the beam at that point, and then we're now at about the right height for the silencer. So what I'll do is I'll just tape these up, tape them together in a kind of random orientation. It'll probably need to be clocked a little bit, but I'll just tape them on there to start with. See if it's at roughly the right height for the silencer. If it is, yeah, tack them together and then probably weld that whole section up. Right, so we've got a silencer shell with just a baffle plate in the end. Obviously I haven't fabricated the actual silencer we're going to use yet, but that'll go somewhere there. We can just squeeze an 8-inch shell in between the spring and the wheel well. There's just enough clearance for it. So we're going to go for that kind of on the end of there. So I can see we are going to need to bring all of that across. So we can start to use the pies to actually poke it that way and work it round. So yeah, it's probably not going to quite be as simple as I'd hoped. So I think at this point, given that we've already got quite a few joints here, I'll probably weld that up, and then we can probably we'll get the silencer put on a stand. We'll make the silencer up, get it put on a stand, fix it in position, might even put hanger brackets on it, or at least tack some on, and then just work those pies, twisting the orientation until we get them, you know, into that silencer in the middle there. Right, so we've got this welded up, and throw it back on. Right, so we've got that refitted. We can now kind of play around a bit more with this silencer. So obviously at the minute it's not assembled, it's just a raw shell and an end cap in there. And what we need to try and do is mount the silencer just far enough away from the spring, obviously that we're not, we don't have to worry too much about spring clearance. Obviously we could have come right back here, but then we've got to get it, you know, we'd probably have to mount the silencer at an angle, which is not necessarily a problem, but we don't need all of the length there. We can easily bring the silencer back to here, and it gives us loads more clearance. So next thing is going to be to set the silencer up on a stand, and then kind of work out. We're probably going to have just a straight section out the back of the silencer, or yeah, probably going to have like something like, I don't know, 30-degree bend or something like that at the back of the silencer with a straight section on the end, and then it's a case of lining that straight section up with here. So yeah, we can get this silencer mounted on a stand. Right, so we've got the silencer shell propped up in roughly where it wants to go, so just in front of that rear spring. Taped up 2 more pie cuts, so that gives us like a 30-degree bend, and these are just offcuts from further forward on the car, so that kind of makes up like a 30-degree bend basically. So with that there, that gives us a pretty clear run to that over axle section. It's not spot on, but it's enough to work with to get us going to start with. So we'll probably use another slip joint again, because the adjustability, the extra adjustability of a slip joint here will really help us over a V-band. We'll get the silencer made up, get this all tacked together and prepped up, these random lengths, because it seems like it's about right. We can make it work. Then we can get it put back on the car, and then basically work out that last section to join it all together. Then we'll maybe have to play around with these lengths a bit, but at least when we've got something to aim towards at that point. So yeah, next job's getting that silencer made up. So we've got the silencer welded up now and kind of propped in place, and started working out the hanger brackets. And the other thing we've kind of worked out is this kind of link section here. So before we had the silencer made, I kind of thought, yeah, about 30-degree bend is going to work about fine. We're going to stick a bit out the back of the silencer, and then say just another offcut I've got here. That lines up perfectly to get us across to that over axle section. So I think we'll probably have like a 3-inch section here, or maybe a bit longer actually, maybe about 4-inch, and that'll have like a 2-inch deep slip joint in it. So I'll cut another piece. It's about 4 inches long. Swage it out for a slip joint. We can get that prepped up, taped on. But I really want to mount the hanger brackets on the silencer because of the weight of an 8-inch body silencer. I don't want to miscalculate the kind of drop. So once we kind of set the exhaust height and we weld the hanger brackets on, it will inevitably drop a little bit because of the weight on the kind of weight pulling the exhaust bushings down. Now we can kind of calculate that as best we can, but it's still going to drop a little bit. So I'd rather preempt that, because we're dealing with such tight tolerances on this 3.5 inch system. We can preempt that a little bit by putting the hanger brackets on the silencer first, kind of hanging the silencer, just propping up the rear end of it so that the weight is taken on the bushes, and then we can finalise that rear section and join it all together. So yeah, I'll cut this up, swage it, tape it on, and then we'll sort those hanger brackets. So we've got the brackets welded on now, or just kind of got some beefy tacks on. And so the silencer is kind of self-supporting itself, like weight-wise. Obviously we've still got prop in the back, but it's kind of taking most of its own weight. And I've got those sections that I talked about cut. I've tacked on another piece of pie on the end there. And I've got those two pieces in the middle, but they're still just taped up at the minute because I didn't know if I might need to clock them. So at the minute they're following the same kind of centre line, and they're taped up that way. And I kind of tacked the straights on either end because I didn't know if I might need to twist them. But it looks as though, you know, for a first go, we're about, you know, we're pretty close. I mean, you could force it over at that point. I'm obviously not gonna. But yeah, we just need to rotate this round about, you know, 2 degrees, something like that, and then I'm pretty confident it's all going to line up. So yeah, it's come out pretty well. Okay, so that's got all those welded up now. So I finished off this over axle section, and then the kind of bend that goes into the back box or rear silencer, whatever you want to call it. So it literally is now just a case of, now I've got it back on the car, I've got them all lined up again. We've checked all our clearances everywhere, everything looks spot on. It's come out really well, to be honest. We've kind of got it all set in its final position now, so it's just a case of marking it up, getting it off the car, and welding it up, and we can start that rear section. So thanks for watching. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. See you next time.